The House will come to order. Prayer by the chaplain.
Great and gracious God of mercy and love, you are the source of all life, whose very nature is revealed in the beauty of creation and the diversity of your people. Known by many names and through many traditions, your compassion has been celebrated among your people in every generation and culture. Though our expressions and understandings may differ, your call to justice and full life for all of your children remains constant. As we gather on this first day of a new legislative session, we offer our thanks for the gifts and possibilities before us. In whatever challenges and opportunities that these next days and weeks will bring, help us to be open to your presence and to how and where your Spirit is already moving and guiding. We pray for this legislative body and for each of its members, their families, their communities, and whatever needs or concerns may be in each of their lives and on their hearts. They have been called as servants from among your people to truly listen and faithfully represent the diverse voices and perspectives of all the people of this great state. We give thanks for the commitment and compassion that they bring to this work. The task before these legislators is indeed daunting because the issues are complex, and at the heart of every proposal, discussion, debate, and vote are the lives, needs, and hopes of your beloved people and the well-being of your creation. We pray, gracious God, for all of those who are a part of this legislative process, especially the legislative staff whose service, expertise, and analysis supports the important work and decisions of these representatives of your people. And God, may your blessings be upon this great state of Minnesota, upon its leaders, its institutions, its natural wonders, and especially its people. Help all who are privileged to be a part of this great democratic process to be ever mindful of the sacred trust that whatever issues may come on the floor of this chamber or in hearings, committees, or caucuses, the integrity of your creation and the well-being of the most vulnerable and marginalized of your people are held paramount. Holy One, bless this House of Representatives and all that comes before it. Amen.
The chaplain today is Reverend Kevin Schill from Grace United Methodist Church, Burnsville, Minnesota. Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 88th Session, 2013, 62nd day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Monday, May 20th, 2013.
If there's no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. Introduction of bills. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The Chief Clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction and first reading of House Files 1863 through 2374.
First reading, House Files 1863 to 2374.
Pursuant to Article 4, Section 19 of the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, Radinovich moves that the rule therein be suspended and urgency be declared, that the rules of the House be so far suspended, so that House File 2374 be given its second and third readings and placed upon its final passage.
Representative Radinovich, your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My motion today is in hopes that we can pass a bill to benefit the low-income heating assistance program that's affecting many Minnesotans during this cold winter.
Any discussion to the motion? Representative? The motion is to declare an urgency and suspend the rules.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would speak in support of that motion.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. All opposed, no. The motion prevails. Second reading.
Second reading, House File 2374.
Second reading. Any discussion? Third reading.
Third reading, House File 2374.
Third reading. Representative Radinovich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we're all aware here, having come back to session in the middle of the winter, it's been one of the worst winters in 30 years in Minnesota history. And there are 250,000 Minnesotans right now that rely on propane to heat their homes, many of them in rural parts of the state, such as the one I represent. In fact, my father himself is somebody who burns propane, and while he was able to pre-purchase his propane this year at $1.75 a gallon, because of a supply crunch, prices in Minnesota for propane have shot up over $6 per gallon. They've come down a little bit since then, but certainly we're dealing with a crisis right now. Before we came into session, the governor and the executive branch have taken certain steps to try and alleviate the propane crunch. Amongst those steps have been lifting restrictions on truckers who are hauling propane between Texas and here, working with the Midwest Governors Association and Governor Perry in Texas to lift restrictions in the state of Texas that would allow Minnesota trucks to fill up at their terminals. As well as in the administration of the LIHEAP program, which, if you're not familiar, is a low-income heating assistance program, they've changed the crisis benefit from $500 to $1,000 to deal with prices that are 2 to 3 times, maybe even 4 times what they normally would be for propane. Additionally, the administration has changed the tank fill threshold for the program from less than 20% to less than 30% to make sure that no Minnesota family runs out of propane this very cold winter. Governor Dayton has also used his executive authority to change the threshold for qualification for the LIHEAP program. As we all understand, because the prices have spiked, more families are impacted in their budget by these propane costs. And so we've gone from 50% of the state median income to 60% of the state median income in order to qualify for the program. What this bill does today is very simple. It recognizes that Minnesotans across the state are struggling to keep up with their heating needs. And it appropriates $20 million of state money to the LIHEAP program. If we fail to appropriate this money, the Department of Commerce reports that the LIHEAP program will be unsustainable in early March. The funding provided here is not intended to supplement federal funds, or excuse me, it is intended to supplement federal funds, not replace them. If there are additional funds left over at the end of the winter, those will cancel back to the general fund as of June 30th, 2014. The Commissioner of Commerce will dispense these funds in accordance with existing LIHEAP regulations. And so we've got a mechanism in place by which to help these families. It's just very important that the state steps up in this time of need to make sure that every family in Minnesota can continue to keep their homes heated. Certainly we've seen recently some very tragic news about the use of alternative heating sources and the dangers that they cause for those homes. And we want to make sure that every Minnesotan, every senior on a fixed income, every young family across the state can keep their home warm and keep their family warm. So I ask for the support of all my colleagues in this. This is an important issue. It's not a partisan issue. This is an issue that should benefit all Minnesotans. Thank you.
Representative Garofalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. First of all, I want to thank the DFL majority for bringing this bill forward today. Certainly, we are responding to a crisis, and it is important that we respond to this crisis in this fashion. I would say that as we move forward in this session, I hope this is not the end of the discussion regarding the propane issues we're having in the state. This is a short-term response to a crisis, and if we do nothing, this problem is going to come back. And I would make 3 suggestions to the DFL majority for proposals and ideas that can be going forward. First of all, we need to be incentivizing storage infrastructure on site for propane. This is something that is very capital intensive. We can do things at the statewide level to make that happen. Second of all, is we should be encouraging past tax credits or some sort of assistance to encourage people to convert their facilities from propane to natural gas or on-site liquefied natural gas. Again, very capital intensive, but it's better for the environment, much more stable. And third and finally, and this is probably the easiest thing we can be doing, we've had many state officials and local officials advising the federal government on what to do, what they do with their policies. And the thing that we could do right now to guarantee that we long-term solve this problem is to pass the Keystone Pipeline. 60 to 70% reduction in oil tanker traffic in the state of Minnesota's railways. If we can get that pipeline opened up and it frees up capacity, we're always going to have unexpected supply disruptions. We're going to have unexpected demand usage. However, the problem with this case is not, as the author of the bill mentioned, it was not a supply shortage. In fact, there's plenty of supply. It was getting it from where it was produced down in Conway, Kansas, and Mont Belvieu, Texas, getting it onto the rails and getting them northbound. And passing the Keystone Pipeline will fix this in the long term. Members, I would encourage your support for House File 2374, but let's not lose sight of the long-term things we need to do this session to fix this. Thank you.
Representative Keel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members across the aisle, I thank you very much for bringing this forward. This is very important, as Representative Radinovich said, to our rural districts. I have heard from people who are very concerned. They've made plans, but weren't expecting those high costs of propane. We came across some unfortunate incidences where in the last few years we haven't used as much propane in the agricultural area, haven't needed to dry so much of our product, and all of a sudden we have to do that along with the tight supplies, the unavailability. I would suggest that not only we look at encouraging our federal government to open up Keystone, but we also need to look for ways to provide propane in a closer area where we use it on a regular basis up in the northwestern area. So it would be very important for us to think in terms of long-term and provide for our citizens so that the cost doesn't increase or isn't so volatile. Thank you.
Representative Hertaus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Representative Radinovich, thank you for bringing the bill forward. It is not a partisan issue at all in terms of being able to help those who are in need. And we've already touched on many of the things that I wanted to say, and I endorse those things. But one other thing that we need to do is we have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayer. And one of the things the program does not do adequately is it offers assistance at a time when people want to turn their thermostat up. Industry experts tell us that we could get 40% more leverage of the taxpayer's dollar to help those people in need if we would make these funds available in the summertime and fill tanks in the summertime. It serves 2 purposes. One, we get more mileage for the dollar, and we also fill storage capacity right at the source and where it's used. So we have a very cyclical industry which has to meet high demands in the heating months, and it sits largely idle other than building reserves all summer long. And those reserves could be filled in the tanks. And so some have suggested that if the state would take a one-time investment in advancing funds for this program and then be reimbursed when the federal funds come, we could actually do more to help more people. Thank you.
Representative Faust.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Quite some time ago now, I was actually the president of what I believe was at the time the largest retail propane company in the state of Minnesota. This was about 20 years ago, and in the last 20 years, we as a state have set thousands of new propane tanks every year. And so our demand has increased significantly, but because of the warm winters, we haven't needed as much propane per user as what we used to use. And so we've increased the demand, but it hasn't shown up until we finally got a cold winter like this. And so it isn't very often I agree with Representative Garofalo, but we absolutely have to do something to increase the capacity, because the capacity into the state to ship propane into the state has not increased, even though the demand has increased significantly in the last 20 to 30 years. And so I'm not 100% sure the pipeline is the right answer, but we've got to figure out a way to get that done, or we're going to hit every time we have a cold streak, we're going to see propane up around $4, $5, $6 again, and so we've got to figure out some way to fix it. Thank you.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Welcome back, members. Thank you to Representative Radinovich for bringing this bill forward. Just a couple of things I want to touch on. It was mentioned earlier that we do need to make the long-range plans, and I support that wholeheartedly. I also think that it's important that we remember, so many of the providers of propane in the area that I represent are the co-ops and so forth, and I just want to relay one instance to you. I was talking to one of the managers in northwest Minnesota, and they've been delivering propane in the morning at $4.50. That afternoon they got in a shipment of propane that actually cost them $1 less per unit than what they had planned on. Later that business day, they were reissuing statements or invoices to their customers to reflect the decreased price that happened that day. So at the local level, some people have talked about gouging possibly, but I can tell you in northwest Minnesota, our local providers are doing an excellent job. One other thing I want to mention is that a lot of the community action agencies in my part of the state are involved in a program that's called Reach Out for Warmth. And I'm encouraging all of you and all of Minnesotans to dig into your pocket and make a donation to your local community action group. In Badger, Minnesota, the Northwest Community Action. In Oakley, it's the Intercounty, and over in the Crookston area, it's the Tri-Valley. And what you can do is make a donation to them, and they will reimburse the suppliers of the propane for the people who have accounts on credit with them. So thank you very much, members, and I urge a green vote on House File 2374. Thank you.
Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and welcome back, members. Pleasure to see everyone again. And Representative Radinovich, thanks for bringing this bill. It does address a very pertinent issue to Minnesotans, especially those of us that are in the rural area. I guess I just have a question for Representative Radinovich, Mr. Speaker, if he'd yield.
He will yield. Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Radinovich, tell us how this bill fits into really kind of the whole discussion about global warming, and now we're experiencing global cooling, and I'm curious how these really fit together.
Representative Radinovich.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Drazkowski, I appreciate your comments and the comments of all of the legislators who got up to speak to this bill today. Certainly, that's not a question I anticipated being asked. I'm willing to admit as much. I can't speak to that right now. I think that what is important is the here and now, which is that there are Minnesotans across the state who are facing a very difficult situation, whether it's cooling or warming or heating or not. They have to wrestle with their own finances and putting heat in their homes. So that's probably a discussion for another time. I appreciate the question, though, Representative Drazkowski.
Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Representative Radinovich, thank you for the animated response. I do support your bill. Thank you for bringing it, and I look forward to more discussion about what we're now seeing as global cooling here in Minnesota. Thank you.
Representative Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, my housemate, Representative Radinovich, for bringing forward this bill, a very important bill. And as you know, Representative Radinovich, you and I have both gotten a lot of calls from constituents in our area. And members, you know, this is a time that we can all work together. This is really a great moment that we start off this year working together to make a difference in Minnesotans across the state of Minnesota and all corners of the state of Minnesota. But some of the calls that I've gotten, some of my constituents have contacted me. Some of them have said, I just can't find the resources, the financial resources anymore to pay for propane, and I need that. And Representative Radinovich, you're going to help with that on this bill, so thank you for that. And the elderly, some elderly and senior citizens have contacted me with their issues as well as finances. But one of the most powerful calls that I got was from a terminal ill mother and her family that were in hospice, and they ran out of propane and had no heat as this family was going through a difficult time. The 2 young children and the mother and the father, and so Representative Radinovich, this is a good bill that will help a lot of people in the state of Minnesota and families in the state of Minnesota. And so thank you for bringing it forward. And members, I just urge a green vote on House File 2374 as well.
Representative Anderson.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker, and what a good way to start the session with all of us agreeing on things, and I haven't heard anything I haven't agreed with yet so far today, so thanks for that. Yeah, this has been a very important issue all over the state, outstate especially as well. It's also affected some livestock producers who have small chickens, turkeys, hogs, for example. I talked to one fellow who raises hogs, and his tank was down to 5%. And he called his supplier and didn't know if he could get any additional propane supplies, but they somehow found a load to bring out there, and he was able to keep his barn warm. So this has affected everybody across the entire state of Minnesota. I would also echo what we need to keep working on the issue. We need to increase storage. We need to fill our tanks earlier in the season in the summertime when prices are lower and such. And this problem is not going to go away with the pipeline leaving us here in the state, at least one of them not being in service anymore. It's a long-term problem. This is a start on the solution, and I say thanks for the bill and the work on this, and let's continue working together to solve this problem for the people of Minnesota. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Quam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Through this discussion and the calls I've received, I wish that we had had more storage, and I think I will bring up in the tax committee concerns that storage and having resources local is key if there's a change in the weather and etc. So I think the storage and warehouse tax may have to get a new look. But one of the things I'd like would the chief author yield for a question?
He will. Representative Quam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What I'm curious about is in the work on this bill, and we're very good at taking care of emergency and reacting. Was there some thought on a longer-term range of things that we could do, especially in conjunction with there's some pipeline extensions, there's some new pipelines where there's permitting delays, even though we had passed some legislation a few years ago to try and decrease the permitting delays. Was there any thought by the author of this bill for the long-term things, such as taking care of the delays in the permitting, so timely permitting, and having a forward thought as to access and delivery of not just propane, but natural gas and other products in the state that, if we have a shortage or a bad weather, could affect us?
Representative Radinovich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Appreciate the question, Representative Quam. This bill very clearly only deals with the emergency appropriation of $20 million to supplement the LIHEAP program. The LIHEAP program is a federal program. $99 million was initially allocated to the state of Minnesota. There was an additional $15 million that was allocated in the crisis time earlier in February. And this is $20 million to shore up that the projected use for the rest of the winter. Now, as to well, I should say, as to the urgency of this bill, it's because these funds are projected to run out in early March. Now, we're back in session. This is the first day today. There is a committee process. There are people who serve on the Energy and Commerce committees who would be very well versed in discussing these ideas, as bills are introduced. I certainly hope, given the information that I understand about the propane crisis right now, that Minnesota does continue to take proactive steps to address our storage and our delivery of propane and other heating fuels. So I'm amenable to ideas. I think that the best place for those is through the Energy and Commerce committees, but I would look to support the ideas that I think address that situation.
Representative Quam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the response. We're going to see a lot of green on that board, as it ought to be. My concern is that we need to stick together in looking for the long-term corrections that will prevent this from ever coming up again. In each of your committees, there could be a bill coming that you could do something to make it better for our infrastructure, better for our citizens, especially in greater Minnesota that don't have maybe some of the accessibility that other parts of the state might have. So I do ask that the chair of the Energy Committee make sure that we try to address this concern, and I do support this bill. Thank you.
Representative Hortman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'd like to assure you that the Energy Committee will be working on the propane issue. We'll be looking at the longer-term issues. I would encourage you, if you have ideas about long-term solutions, to get your bills in the hopper as soon as possible. We're having hearings on Monday, March 3rd and Tuesday, March 4th about propane, looking at the longer-term issues we have to deal with, the Cochinella pipeline shutting down, and also looking at some consumer protections. As we pass $20 million to provide heat for Minnesotans, it's important for us to look at how that money is being spent and to make sure that people are being treated fairly by folks in the industry. Our industry is doing a phenomenal job of helping people out, but as in any crisis, there's always a few bad apples, and we want to just make sure this isn't an opportunity for anybody to get ripped off either. So please bring your bills to the Energy Committee. We've dedicated a lot of time this session, but the calendar is short. And so please get those bills in the hopper Thursday preferably, or Monday at the latest.
Okay. Representative Benson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Radinovich. I'll add to all the comments that have been made and say thank you both to the Speaker and to the leadership of the DFL in making sure that this bill was expedited. My hope is now that the Senate will follow suit and make sure that we can get something on the governor's desk. We've heard a lot, and there's probably not been a person in this body that didn't get an email or phone call from a constituent that wasn't impacted by the shortage. But I also got a number of emails, and I'm sure you have too, from people who are not going to qualify for this assistance. And they fall just outside of where they need to in income, and they're going to be as severely impacted and paying these $2,000 or plus bills for filling up their tanks during one of the coldest winters, which, by the way, I would say that possibly, Representative Radinovich, that maybe you could check with Representative Faust. I think he had some of the science in his speech, because I think he said that we had part of the issue is we've now got colder winters, so that might answer some of Representative Drazkowski's questions. But nevertheless, I think that as we move forward, in this body we've had a lot of discussions about windmills and solar panels and a seemingly war against carbon energy supplies. I'm hoping that as we craft legislation that will begin to address, which is an absolute necessity, there is a critical shortage that needs to be addressed, and it is a transportation, it is an infrastructure issue, that the folks that are leading our transportation committees and our energy committees and our commerce committees will take a real hard look at what we've done over the last couple of years and not addressed what is really an important energy source for the foreseeable future and what we're going to do about it. So thank you.
Representative Anzels.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thanks to you, Representative Radinovich, for your quick response to a huge problem throughout Minnesota, and especially in northern Minnesota. You know, I've been through 68 of these winters, and this is the worst. So once again, on behalf of all of the people of Minnesota, and especially northern Minnesota, thank you for your good work.
Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would Representative Radinovich yield to a question?
He will yield. Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Radinovich, my constituents are asking a very important question, knowing that not only in our part of the state, but in the rest of the state, we had a late planting season, we had a late harvest, and we're wondering what was Commerce doing, knowing that the pipeline was going to be repaired? What was the Department of Commerce doing in letting this crisis occur and not taking action earlier? Can you answer that question, please?
Representative Radinovich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Erickson. You know, I'm not a member of the Department of Commerce. I have had conversations with the Commissioner recently. The Commissioner relayed that the Department of Commerce and the Governor have been meeting with propane industry officials since before Christmas, and indeed had another meeting in January. This bill right here, again, is an emergency appropriation to shore up the LIHEAP fund. I think that we can all examine what's happened in this state with the issue of propane, and we can certainly look forward to having to wrestle with our propane issue going forward. Now, suggestions from any member of this body would be welcome, as Representative Hortman had said, in trying to address it going forward. I think that the governor, upon realizing this crisis, had taken the steps that I'd outlined previously. They've lifted restrictions on truckers. They've raised the qualification for heating assistance. They've additionally changed the threshold for filling of a tank. But that the weather had prevented crops from being taken out earlier and dried without less propane isn't something that the governor could have impacted. And so I think that in our best case, government can respond to the circumstances and try to improve upon the situation going forward. And that's what we're here doing today. Thank you.
Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A follow-up, would he yield again?
He will yield. Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Radinovich, of this $20 million, how much of this will be available for propane users? Because this is for all energy assistance qualifiers, and in my district, as Representative Nelson pointed out, I have many folks who don't qualify and who are really hard-pressed to pay their bills with the increase in the cost of propane. So how much of this will be sent to those who use propane?
Representative Radinovich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A very good question, Representative Erickson, one that I had addressed in committee yesterday. And so while it may seem intuitive that some of these dollars should be allocated to propane, being that there is a propane spike, the LIHEAP program covers heating assistance for all forms of energy. And because of the spike in the depletion of the fund, the spike in propane prices and the depletion of the fund as a result of that, all forms of heating will be threatened if we do not replenish this fund. And so we certainly understand, and the governor in his actions has declared a crisis, the crisis provisions of the LIHEAP program, strictly related to propane, which increased the allocation from $500 to $1,000 per household. In addition to that, he has increased the threshold from 50% of the state median income to 60% of the state median income, so that an additional 120,000 Minnesota families can qualify for the program. Going forward, certainly I've heard from people in my own district who may not qualify for the program but have been impacted. Their small businesses have been impacted. Their own residences have been impacted. But the most immediate problem here that we face is that this fund will run out of money and that there will be Minnesotans literally left out in the cold. And so I think the action here today is to pass this bill. I sure hope that we'll see a green vote from all of my colleagues on the floor here today.
Representative Purcell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Glad to see all of you here today, and thank you for the bill. Representative Radinovich, I rise in support of 2374. I've had the same type of feedback in my district, northern Minnesota, that a lot of you have had in these areas regarding propane, and folks are struggling buying food or propane, and The food shelves are busier than ever. A lot of people hurting, and we haven't had a winter like this, Representative Drazkowski, for 30 years. But we're going to have a few more of them, I'm sure. And I think that one of the things that we're going to do as an outcome of this, and a lot of good ideas coming up, and this is good. Let's have this conversation. Chair Hortman's going to have some hearings on this, but we need to look at how things are regulated out there. How did we get into this? I heard that a couple of times. Well, we got into it because there's appears to me, there's some real roadblocks to getting propane where it should be. I think Representative Garofalo said there's no shortage, and he's right. There's no shortage of propane. We've been shipping it overseas big time. So we just have to figure out how to get it up here to Minnesota, and we're going to have some discussions on do we need more regulation on this, and have a comprehensive plan, Representative Quam. I agree. Let's have that comprehensive plan. We've been putting solar furnaces on low-income heating homes in northern Minnesota for 6, 8, 10 years now. They do 30% roughly of the heating needs of a home in northern Minnesota. Solar furnaces, they're part of our plan too. So let's keep all our cards on the table. I need to comment, and I don't know if Representative Drazkowski is listening, but I have to get back on a little bit on the global climate change thing, and he'll hear about it from somebody. But I think there's a plan that's been afoot, and I can't quite explain it, that folks in the rest of the country now, we've had some cooling all over. In fact, at one time, I think 2/3 of the United States was white with snow, if I remember right. So I think there's a plan afoot where more people are getting to understand why we Minnesotans are special, because every winter we get to walk on water. And now some of them get to experience that too. So I think that's part of it, Representative Drazkowski, and I trust you got out and did some walking on the water, and it was refreshing. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none. The clerk will take the roll on the bill. The clerk will close the roll. There being 133 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there's no objection, we'll take action on these motions first. Hearing no objection, those motions prevail.
Johnson C. moves that House File 1829 be recalled from the Committee on Civil Law and re-referred to the Committee on Agriculture Policy.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I've spoken with both committees' chairs, and we'd like to start this bill in the Ag Committee to talk about the value of agritourism and then move it over to the Civil Law Committee.
All in favor of the motion say aye. All opposed, no. Motion prevails.
Newton moves that House File 1921 be recalled from the Committee on Governmental Operations and re-referred to the Committee on Commerce and Consumer Protection Finance Policy.
Representative Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, this bill has to do with the deaf and hearing impaired and captioning on TV sets, and it should be in the Committee on Commerce and Consumer Protection.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Motion prevails.
Liebling moves that House File 1791 be recalled from the Committee on Public Safety, Finance, and Policy and re-referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services Policy.
Representative Liebling.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This is a bill that comes from the Heart Association, has to do with those automatic defibrillator devices, and it really is more of a health issue, so we're asking to have it re-referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services Policy, and Representative Paymar is okay with it for the time being, and we'll continue discussing it to see if he needs to see it later on.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Motion barely prevails. Come on, first day, guys. All right.
Winkler moves that House File 92, which had been laid on the table pursuant to Joint Rule 3.02, A, be taken from the table, that the Speaker appoint a conference committee of 3 members of the House, and that the House request that a like committee be appointed by the Senate.
Representative Winkler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is to basically reconstitute the conference committee on the minimum wage bill, House File 92, and I would ask for passage and request a roll call.
Roll call has been requested. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. The clerk will take the roll on the motion.
That's it.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 73 ayes and 58 nays, the motion prevails. Announcement by the Speaker.
The Speaker announces the appointment of the following members of the House to a conference committee in House File 92. Winkler, Metsa, and Poppy.
Any announcements? No announcements. Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I do want to say welcome back. It's good to see everybody. It's good to see Representative Dowd. And it's good to see that we're starting off so quickly with doing good work for Minnesotans. I think that's going to give them confidence in our ability this session. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 3 p.m. Thursday, February 27th, 2014.
Representative Murphy moves that when the House adjourned today, it adjourn until 3 p.m. Thursday, February 27th, 2014. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion prevails. Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Murphy moves that the House do now adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion prevails. The House stands adjourned until 3 p.m. Thursday, February 27th, 2014.